her hands frozen around her fork. Her friend Sarah sat hunched beside her, scanning the room the way someone scans for exits in a bad dream. 6 men in tailored suits stood too close. Their smiles slick with alcohol and entitlement, the kind of confidence you can only buy when you've never been told no in your life. Across the room, behind the kitchen doorway. What they didn't know was that before she opened the place, she'd spent 22 years in the military, 15 of those in special forces. And now, the same instincts that had kept her alive overseas told her she was looking at trouble that was circling 2 young women who had just come in to celebrate a birthday. Handsome in that sharp-edged way that money sometimes buys. He and his friends had been drinking hard, their laughter a little too loud, their glances a little too fixed on Emma and her friend. Sarah stayed in the shadows at first, letting the scene play out. Civilian life had rules, and you didn't intervene just because you didn't like the look of something. But when Marcus walked over, and put a heavy hand on Emma's arm, the decision was made for her. She crossed the room with measured steps, voice calm. "Gentlemen, this is my restaurant. I need you to respect the rules." Marcus barely turned, his smirk widening as he sized her up. 45, auburn hair, green eyes, attractive, but in his mind, harmless. "Mind your own business." "Lady," he said. His buddies chuckled, but Sarah didn't blink. She repeated herself, a little sharper this time, and that was when Marcus squeezed Emma's arm and tried to pull her toward his table. What happened next was over in less than 3 minutes, but no one who saw it would ever forget it. Marcus's arm was twisted behind his back before his brain caught up. His face slammed into a plate of pasta. Another man lunged and was dropped with an elbow strike and a leg sweep. 2 more went down in quick, efficient moves. One grabbed for her shoulder and found himself flipped onto a table. The last pulled out his phone. Claiming he'd call the cops, Sarah plucked it from his hand and set it down gently on the nearest table. "Go ahead," she said, "but let's finish the lesson first." By the time it was over, 6 men were groaning on the floor, and Sarah wasn't even breathing hard. The rest of the restaurant sat frozen, trying to understand how the woman who'd served their wine 10 minutes ago had just dismantled half a dozen men without breaking a sweat. "Gentlemen," she said, her voice steady. A man who could get the mayor on the phone in under a minute started making calls. Within days, Sarah faced surprise health inspections, tax audits, even a suspension of her music license. On the 5th day, Marcus and a lawyer walked in and announced they were filing assault charges. Sarah had seen power plays before, but this was a civilian version, quieter, dirtier, and aimed at ruining her life piece by piece. What the Wellingtons didn't know was that Sarah wasn't standing alone. That evening, she got a call from General Robert Harrison, her old commanding officer. He'd heard about the incident. Somehow these stories always travel fast in the right circles, and he'd done some digging. But Harrison wasn't the kind of man to stand by when one of his own was under fire. A few calls later, the city's police chief, also a former soldier, was looking at Marcus's record: harassment, assault, 15 complaints, all swept under the rug. This time, the chief told Harrison, they're going to lose. And they did. 3 days later, the FBI walked into James Wellington's office with enough evidence to make his empire shake. At the same time, Sarah's story began to spread, first through local veterans groups, then to police, firefighters, and finally onto social media, where hashtag BellaVistaVeteran exploded. Veterans from every war started showing up at her door, canes tapping on the sidewalk, saying things like, "Daughter, we've got your back." Within a week, Bella Vista was booked solid for 2 months. As the Wellingtons' money and influence crumbled, something unexpected happened. Marcus came back. No suit this time, just jeans, a t-shirt, and a look Sarah had never seen on him before: humility. "I came to apologize," he said, voice unsteady. "What we did was wrong. We didn't know who you were." She studied him for a moment before asking, "If you had known, would it have made a difference?" He thought about it. "No, we should have respected you regardless." From that day forward, Marcus and his friends worked in the restaurant, not in suits, but in aprons, washing dishes, bussing tables. Their wealth was gone, but they'd gained something else: dignity. 3 months later, Bella Vista had doubled in size. Veterans, families, young couples, everyone came here now. You could feel it in the air. This was a place where people looked each other in the eye, where respect was currency. One night, General Harrison came in for dinner and told Sarah, "You're still serving, Colonel, just with different tools." She smiled. At 45, she'd fought her share of battles, but this one, building a community where everyone belonged, might be the most satisfying of all. 6 months later, her story hit national headlines. Veteran restaurant owner stands up to bullies. Marcus gave an interview, saying, "Sarah Mitchell taught me that power isn't about wealth. It's about character." Emma and her friends still came back every year for Emma's birthday, always sitting at the same table. And every morning, Sarah opened her doors, greeting customers not as a soldier, but as someone who knew battles aren't always fought overseas. Sometimes they happen in the quiet places, restaurants, parking lots, street corners, where someone decides enough is enough. That night at Bella Vista wasn't just about a fight. It was about drawing a line, about proving that respect can stand taller than arrogance, and that sometimes the most effective weapon is simply refusing to back down. It's a reminder that heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes they wear aprons, and sometimes their battlefields smell like garlic and fresh bread. So, what do you think? Was this just a story about 6 drunk men in the wrong restaurant? You'd think that would have been the end of it. Marcus redeemed. The restaurant packed every night. Bella Vista turned into this little safe haven where everyone knew each other's name. And for a while, it was exactly that. But the thing about standing up to power is, power doesn't always forget. It just goes quiet, waits, finds a new way to test you. It started one rainy Thursday, about 8 months after the fight. Dinner rush was just starting when a group of strangers walked in. Not the loud, drunk type this time, but sharp suits, clean haircuts. You know the kind of watching I'm talking about. Eyes scanning the room, counting exits, noting who came in and out. Marcus noticed first. He'd been wiping down a table near the bar when one of them slipped him a card. No words, just a little smirk. Marcus brought it to Sarah in the kitchen. Black card, gold lettering. No company name. Just a number and the words, "We should talk." Sarah stared at it for a moment, then slipped it into her apron pocket. "Don't worry about it," she told him. But her tone was the one she used back in the service when she didn't want the younger soldiers to panic. 2 nights later, the same men came back, but this time they sat in the dining area and ordered the most expensive bottles of wine on the menu. Didn't touch a drop. When their check came, here's the thing, Sarah wasn't scared of threats, but she was protective of her people. Bella Vista wasn't just her livelihood anymore. It was this living, breathing community that had rallied behind her, and she wasn't about to let anyone scare them off. So she called General Harrison. He didn't waste time. "I'll send someone," he said. And the next day a man named Cole arrived. Tall, quiet, mid-40s, the kind of guy you wouldn't notice in a crowd but would want on your side if trouble started. He wasn't there to fight. He was there to watch, the same way those men had watched, only better. Weeks passed, and the tension started to feel like background noise, until the night a fire broke out in the alley behind the restaurant. Small, but deliberate. The fire department got it under control fast. The dining room was full that night, veterans and locals packed in tight, and Sarah made sure everyone saw her greet them with a smile. They sat. She poured the wine herself, leaned in. The fire, the intimidation. Not in a scared way, not even angry, just matter of fact. "This is my home," she said. "These are my people, and if anyone wants to come for me, they're going to have to go through all of us." The place erupted, not in violence, but in something louder. Applause, cheers, that unified roar that comes when people know they're on the same side. The 4 men finished their wine in silence and walked out without a word. They never came back. But that night did something important. It shifted the story. Bella Vista wasn't just the restaurant where a veteran took down 6 guys. It became the place nobody messes with. Not because of fear, but because of what it represented.